what's interesting is that so he does a Hail Mary at the end. First Hail Mary I've ever seen that doesn't end in like people going up for it and batting it down. The receiver could have caught it if he had turned around and looked up faster, but he was about half a second too late, and it literally went past his hand because all of the defenders had fallen.
The defenders, that's like all the defenders have fallen.
They were on their backs. And then homie turns around and he's like this, and it's coming at him, and he lands his hand and it goes right past him. He could have caught it and they would have.
Oh no.
He should have tried 2 hands.
Tied the game. Yeah. And we're live.
With Paranormal Spirits.
Place we come to get our booze on. Sorry, I know.
We talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night. And I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. I have the baddie Alyssa Black, my wife, with me tonight.
The wings are getting hung up in the boom.
Across from me is my breastfin.
You said it.
Breastfin sidekick, John Burkett. Handsome and dashing and daring, and what was it you said the other day? Handsome, lovely and talented. Yeah, lovely and talented John Burkett. And tonight we're bringing you a tale. If you haven't guessed by now, if you're watching on YouTube, this is going to be about vampires. We got our vampire capes. Alyssa's got her bat costume on.
See, it looks like a cat on top, like a cat with wings.
I know it's a little catty on the top, but I got some cool bat wings.
Maybe you can get better ears next time.
I wouldn't go around saying I had bat wings.
On my shirt.
Yeah.
On my in my attire.
Yeah, you should you should put that like on your costume. You should put it on there.
I have bat wings.
Yeah. Check out my bat wings.
Or not.
Oh my God.
That's actually a guy thing. You know what a bat wing is, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, anyway.
So this is a show about spirits and paranormal stuff, but one of the spirits that we always talk about is the BOOZE. And tonight we have a special treat because tonight we are not drinking, well, actually we are. John and I are drinking a pure liquor, but we have a special drink tonight. We have the
Vampirita. Yes, in some places, but if you just look up the recipe, it's a Vampiro. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've always heard of
which is
Vampirita.
a Spanish.
It is a Spanish. It's Mexican vampires. Vampiros Mexicanos. It is made with.
Go right ahead.
Viuda de Sanchez, which is a brand of Sangrita, not sangria, the wine. Sangrita, which is orange emulsion, sugar, hot sauce.
What kind of Cholula or
just a hot sauce? We use the brand Viuda de Sanchez, which tends to be a thicker. A lot of the other ones you can kind of see through. This one you can't. I've already mixed them up, obviously. So we've kind of simplified the recipe. We found it from a local restaurant. It's 3 parts sangrita, 2 parts tequila, and 1 part lime juice. They typically are topped with a citrus soda, which I choose to do. I know that you guys don't. And then it is rimmed with tahini.
Rimmed.
Oh my God!
John,
you're such a
his rim job.
You're such a teenager sometimes. That's why I laugh.
But this is one of our favorite mixed drinks because it's one of those that's not too sweet. It's got a little bit of a hint of a spice to it, a spicy spice, not like spice like nutmeg. And you can drink it like all day, and you don't get wasted. It's not like a margarita. I can't sit around and drink margaritas all day.
I bet I can drink these. If you drink these all day, you get wasted.
We have actually.
Well, I mean,
well, it hasn't been all day like mimosas.
I'm sure you would, but if you're just sitting around,
chit-chatting,
on the back patio and eating hot dogs and hamburgers, and you can drink these all day.
Because they just
tacos.
Or tacos. They just don't have as much sugar. Mm-hmm. So, but I think it's kind of fitting.
Okay, so now, are we going to use our Romanian?
Sure. Do you remember what it was?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you remember?
No.
Okay. So we always say like cilantro if it's tequila or cilantro for anything else. And so tonight this is Norok.
Noroc.
which is cheers in Romanian.
Listen,
So,
my bat wings, they restrict my movement.
Noro. And sláinte
okay.
as well.
And just for those listening, because we do sample and try lots of tequilas, our go-to mixing tequila is 1800 Reposado tequila.
That's not as sweet as the last time I had one.
No, they're not that sweet.
I like it. It's spicy. It's tangy.
It's a little jalapeno in there, I think, in that whatever that sauce
Yeah,
is.
it's something, like I said, it's nice to call it hot sauce emulsion, but a little bit orangey to it. I don't know, usually a little watered down, but orange juice and chili
it's not
peppers
that
is what it
overwhelming
says.
sweet that you get from a margarita, and that's what I like about it.
And
Because that sweet, I can't do that all day.
And you can make your own sangria. There's some recipes that makes like ancho chili and stuff. I think I referenced one in one of our podcasts before. Like Mahenta or something had one. But this one's like easily made. And the bottle of sangria is like $6 at most liquor stores. And you can get a good couple of batches out of it. So
Yeah, I will say that if you're going to buy it, find it at a liquor store, because if you go try to buy it online, this particular brand, Viuda de Sanchez, because we've tried some of the other brands and they're just not as good. But the Viuda de Sanchez, if you buy it online on Amazon, it's like $25 a bottle.
You should resell your bottles on eBay or something.
Well, I buy it a case at a time. So,
Well, I've seen it, that exact same brand, at a Mexican grocery store in Little Rock.
really,
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about going there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You might try,
It's a long way to go for just some mixer for me.
I don't know.
Well, if you're in town, but if you're in
Just
town, you go up to
We have plenty of Mexican groceries. We can
Right.
probably
go
look
to
for.
Supermercado Michoacan and see if they have it.
Yeah.
There's no alcohol in that.
I feel like I've looked when we couldn't find it there for a bit.
Yeah, we did. We looked all over for it because it was there. There was a shortage there for a while for whatever reason.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's our drink. And so tonight, like I said, we're talking about vampires. And we're taking you back in history. We're taking you around the world. We've got a special story from John about an Irish vampire. We're going to talk about books and movies of vampires and video games and RPG games, and talk about some of the medical reasons why people think they're vampires, some of the psychopathy that goes into it, maybe even talk about some of the news articles that we've seen about vampires. So to start it all off, John, take it away with the history of vampires.
Okay, well, we'll talk about the history of vampires in the Western context of what we think, like this.
Right. Yeah. Dracula.
Because the belief in some kind of form of vampirism has existed for millennia all around the world. Mesopotamia, the Hebrews, ancient Greeks, in ancient India, and the Romans, they all had tales of some sort of demon or spirit considered precursors to modern vampires. But the history or folklore of the entity that we think of as in the Western world comes pretty much exclusively from
You know,
Lord.
you have a turn coming up. You're going to get to talk
It's not
about.
my wings.
You're going to get to talk about
It's
stuff.
my boots.
that wing is caught up in.
I'm telling you, man. It's a great purchase, though.
So anyway,
These vampires.
comes pretty exclusively from
I'm listening. 100% listening.
okay.
Sorry. I'm done.
We're throwing John off. We got to stop.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. This is pretty much exclusively from the early 18th century in southeastern Europe, primarily the Balkans, the Balkan region, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, Serbia, those countries in modern time, right? in most cases, in those traditions, vampires are revenants. You understand what a revenant is? Someone who's come back from the dead, right? Of evil beings or people who unalive themselves, or witches. They can also be created by people being a malevolent spirit possessing a corpse, or by being bitten by one. The first known reference to this form of vampire in written form that I can find is in Old Russian from AD 1047.
Oh wow!
And right, just not long after Orthodox Christianity had moved into Eastern Europe, and the term for vampire they use is upir, UPIR, which has uncertain origins, but its possible literal meaning is the thing at the feast or the thing at the sacrifice. Is referring to a malevolent entity that can appear at ceremonies for the dead. But it is a euphemism because they didn't want to say the real name of it.
Wow.
So we'll probably never know what the real name was supposed to be. This is just like saying the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Like you're not supposed to say Zozo.
Right.
Or mention skinwalkers.
Exactly. Call flesh pedestrians, right? So that
flesh pedestrian.
Okay.
That's essentially what, as far as scholars could tell, that's what that is a euphemism.
Okay.
So we'll never know what the real origins and all what it is. But so it formed a similar function as other demonic entities in folklore around the world. They would claim it was responsible for sickness or crop failures, the same as they would say with demons, whatever, right? Primitives. Knuckle dragging primitives. As scholars have put forth various theories about various diseases and their connections to belief in vampirism, that it's likely that no one single disease was the cause, but there are two in particular that stand out. One is rabies.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
It's one of the oldest recognized diseases on the planet. It's transmissible, through bites.
Mm-hmm.
And the contractions cause people not to be able to swallow, and they cause that foaming at the mouth. And one of the main symptoms is hydrophobia, fear of water. And in many of the old folklore, vampires could not cross running water without being helped or carried across so it didn't touch them.
It's interesting because that's it's referenced to in a lot of the historical stuff about werewolves. Same thing. If someone had rabies, a lot of times they would think that they were turning into werewolves because they would lash out at people that try to bite them and things like that.
There's a lot of ties with vampires and werewolves in folklore.
Also, rabies can cause fear of light. And
light sensitivity,
altered sleep patterns, aggression, all things that are also
associated with being a vampire.
Exactly. Now, the second disease is something I'd never heard of before 2 days ago. It's called pellagra, and it is a dietary deficiency of niacin.
Yes. I've heard that.
And it's one of the primary causes of that is high consumption of corn. Now, there is no evidence of pellagra in the Balkans prior to the early 18th century, which is right about the time that corn made its way from the New World into Europe and became a primary dietary staple for peasants and stuff in the Balkan areas. And pellagra can cause the 4Ds: dermatitis,
dysentery,
diarrhea, dementia, and death. Some sufferers also experience high sensitivity to sunlight.
Okay.
Which causes
photophobia.
Photophobia, exactly. So these two, both pellagra and rabies, were at epidemic levels during a certain period in history. the so-called Great Vampire Epidemic, which was from about 1725 to 1755. This is when vampire myths went viral, as you would say, across the European continent.
I see what you did.
I didn't even know they had Instagram back then.
They didn't. They just had MySpace.
Oh, oh, that's funny.
This is where you had all these instances of vampire burials.
Right.
People being corpses dug up, staked in the ground. I've seen pictures of them with sickle blades placed right here across the neck of the corpse.
Mm-hmm.
So if they tried to come up, they'd get their head cut off.
I've seen excavations where they've had like stones stuck in their mouth.
Exactly.
Had nails driven in them. Their bones were broken.
Most of this comes from that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, one of the earliest known things that I could find was from Croatia, actually, which is in the Balkans. It's actually in the mid 17th century. It was a little bit before this. And it's the story of Jure Grando, who lived in a village called Kringa, which is a village on the interior of the Istrian Peninsula, which is now modern-day Croatia. He died in 1656 due to illness, but according to legend, returned from the grave at night as a vampire, or strigan, as they would say in their language, or striga, you've probably heard that, which actually means sorcerer more than vampire, but and terrorized his home village until his decapitation in 1672.
Yeah.
So 16 years after his death, he would rise from the grave by night, terrorize the village. And the village priest named Giorgio,
Of course it was. Armani?
Who had buried him, said that he discovered that at night somebody would knock on the doors around the village, and whichever door he knocked on, someone in that house would die within a few days. Now, to me, that sounds like some other sort of disease that's being
plague.
Yeah. So it's a little late for plague. This is a couple hundred years after the Black Death, but still, it's something like that. So, and it said that when that Jure also appeared to his terrified widow Ivana in her bedroom, who described the corpse as looking as though he was smiling and gasping for breath, and then he would snuggle her, if you know what I'm saying. Those were real words you can't say on YouTube. Yeah. So Father
Snuggle. I'm sorry, that's not funny, but it's funny.
So Father Giorgio came face to face with a time, held a cross in front of him, and yelled, "Behold, Jesus Christ! You vampire, stop tormenting us!" And so it said that one of the bravest of the villagers, the prefect Miho Radicic, if I'm saying that right, chased and tried to kill the vampire by piercing his heart with a hawthorn stick. Now, hawthorn is a spiny tree. It's got thorns on it and stuff. And it comes up again, by the way, in another story. The hawthorn, for some reason, is tied to this stuff.
Comes in mine, too.
Does it?
Yeah.
What is with hawthorns, right? Yeah. Anyway, but the stick bounced off his chest.
Of course it did.
I guess he had some early Kevlar.
It's vampire.
Then one night later, why the hell they did it at night instead of in the broad daylight, which would make more sense, 9 people went to the graveyard. They dug up Jure's coffin and found a perfectly preserved corpse with a smile on his face, which we all know that's because the lips recede after death.
Yeah, death grimace.
Right.
Yeah. And Father Giorgio said, "Look, Strigod, there is Jesus Christ who saved us from hell and died for us, and you, Strigod, you cannot have peace." He tried to pierce the heart again.
Nay.
Wouldn't go through.
Really?
So then they said some exorcism prayers. And one of the villagers, Stepan Milashik, I'm going to butcher some pronunciations.
Bless you.
Some Balkan names, man. Took a saw, sawed the head off the corpse, and as soon as the saw tore his skin, the vampire screamed and blood started to flow from the cut. And that returned peace to the village. Who knows how to pull,
Interesting.
So there's two infamous vampire cases, which are the first to actually be recorded by government officials. And this puts us at 1725 in Serbia. One of them was Peter
Cottontail.
Blagojevic.
Blagojevic.
Yeah.
Blagojevic.
Sure.
Blagojevic. That's it.
Blagojevic, supposedly, you know, he died in 1725 at the age of 62, but allegedly returned after his death to his home and asked his son for food. The son refused. He was found dead the next day.
The son?
The son. And then he returned and attacked some neighbors who said to have died from loss of blood. The villagers demanded that the local priest and government officials be present when they disinterred the body.
So this is in 1700s.
This is 1725. So,
okay.
And this part of Serbia at this time was now part of the Austrian Empire. It had, up until not too long before that, been part of the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
But at this current time, it's part of the Austrian Empire. So they dug up the body with the government officials there. Body was undecomposed. The hair and beard were grown, which happens.
Right.
We know that happens. There were new skin and nails, which also happens. And blood could be seen in the mouth. And I think there's probably a medical reason why you would see that too. But upon seeing this, villagers became enraged and proceeded to stake Petar's body to the ground. So these two instances were, there was also Milos. Milos. You have to say it like Milos.
I'm sorry, you are talking about, where is this?
This is in Serbia.
They have an Italian accent there?
I was thinking it was more, it sounded a little more Greek. To me, the accent did. But
okay, Greek.
So Milos, I'm not even going to attempt his last name, but was a soldier who allegedly was attacked by a vampire years before, and then he died one day while haying, which I guess that means baling hay. But anyway, after his death, people began to die in the surrounding areas, believing that Milos had returned to prey on the neighbors. So these two incidents were well documented by Austrian officials. They were present to examine the bodies. They wrote case reports and published books, which ended up going throughout Europe, causing a bit of hysteria on the continent.
Oh, wow.
Also, there were German and Austrian soldiers who were serving in Serbia at the time who brought some of these stories of vampires back with them. And that's kind of how it spread to Western Europe. It was that way.
So that's when we had the great vampire epidemic.
Right. So this hysteria, commonly referred to as the Great Vampire Epidemic, continued for about 30 years. It exacerbated by rural types who were a little bit more suspicious or superstitious.
Right.
Like, I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. But these villagers were superstitious, right?
Right.
And so you had all these people digging up bodies and staking them all over Europe. And a priest, a Dominican priest, Augustine Calme, it was a theologian and scholar. He published a comprehensive treatise, because that's what you did back then when you did a treatise, with the riveting title of Treatise on the Apparitions of Spirits or Vampires or Revenants, which investigated and analyzed the evidence for vampirism, and numerous readers, including the famous French philosopher Voltaire, and demonologists of the time, interpreted the treatise as basically saying that vampires were real. So at some point, this all ended when Empress Maria Theresa of Austria sent her personal physician, Gerard von Swieten or Swieten, I don't know, to investigate the claims. He concluded that vampires did not exist, and the Empress passed laws prohibiting the opening of grave and desecration of bodies.
Awesome.
and which these that was within the Austrian Empire, and then within a few years other European countries started passing the exact same laws, and by 1755 or so this all kind of went away, but not before ingraining the vampire into the pop culture and the zeitgeist
of everyone in Europe.
Right. And within 100 and so years, you started with poems, Byron, some novels that eventually led to 1896 or 7 with
Bram Stoker.
With Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then and then Nosferatu, and then and then literally Bela Lugosi with this cape.
And even before that, you had Dumas.
There was a book.
Dumas.
There was a book called Marissa Curris, something like that. Anyway, there were other things before Stoker.
Yeah, there was. So
1897.
Yes,
I was there. It was one of those years.
So, Alyssa, tell us about all the other places crazy stuff has happened with.
Some of my stuff.
Some of
my stuff kind of touches on what he said too. But so I started with the Balkans, Dampiers. The name is derived from tooth and to drink. So two of them together. Usually male mythical creature is a result, and it was a result of a human, usually female, and a vampire, usually male, union.
Oh, like Blade.
Wait for it.
Wait
for it. Greater strength and resilience, and in some cases they drink blood, so they were super strength. In the Balkans, it was believed that male vampires have a great desire for human women, so a vampire will return to have intercourse with his wife or with a woman he was attracted to in life. And that's how it created the Dhampir. Yeah. In Bulgarian folklore, vampires were sometimes said to deflower virgins as well.
Hey.
The most popular Dhampir character is Blade, a vampire-slaying hero in Marvel comics and movies.
Hey.
Thanks for stealing my thunder.
Sorry. I mean, you said...
You already stole my thunder by introducing the Dhampir.
Hey, and it was Deacon Frost.
Watch your language.
Anyway, yeah. So
Why can't it just be a pier? It's got to be a damn pier.
So then I went to Romanian, which is very common. It's the Strigoi.
Strigoi, that was... Yeah.
So there's also the Moroi. So there's two. But... Strigoi, Romanian folklore, strigi is to scream. And that's where it comes from. The earliest mention is in 1579 of a strigoi that somebody wrote about in a story. The whole thing was that troubled spirits were said to have risen from the grave. They can transform into an animal, become invisible, and gain vitality from the blood of their victims. It was the most commonly seen of all vampire breeds. When you hear about them, this is the most common.
So it's a variation on that word, strigoi, striga,
yes,
throughout the Balkans.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is the modern interpretation of a strigoi. So, in 1882, the encyclopedist Dmitri Cantemir, did you say his name?
Nope.
And the folklorist Theodore Barada, in his book something, I'm not even going to try that. It has way too many accents and little thingies. It was published in 1882, refers to cases of strigoism. The strigoi can be a living man born under certain conditions. And here is a list of 6 conditions that could be why it was born. Be the 7th child of the same sex in a family.
7th son of a 7th son.
Son of a sailor. Mm-hmm. Wait.
Led a life of sin.
Oh, I'm fucked. I am so screwed.
Die without being married.
Wait, if you've been married before, though, and now you're divorced, does that count?
Well,
that does count.
You've been married, though.
You haven't, if you've never been married.
Good. I'm good on that.
Die by execution for perjury.
They don't execute people for perjury anymore, so we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, you're good on that.
Die by one's own hand.
Yes, unaliving.
Yes. Die from a witch's curse. But John, it continues, and here's the problem for you. The strigoi are said to be bald on top of the head.
Shit.
You're still in the running, buddy.
Does not eat garlic and onions.
I love garlic and onions.
You're good.
Avoids incense.
Not a giant fan. I hate patchouli.
And towards the feast of St. Andrew, he sleeps outside.
When is that?
I don't even know. His spine is elongated in the form of a tail covered with hair.
Nope.
That sounds like a wolf.
Well, yes. To kill them, so then there's like stories about how you can kill them. To kill them, the grave of the supposed Strigoi is searched and the order is read to him by the priests, and an oak, yew, or ash branch is struck in his heart.
You would.
See, they should have had...
It is pierced with a nail or a knife to remain bound of the coffin and not being able to go outside to do mischief. It said the Dracula scrapbook by Peter Haining, published by New English Library Editions in 1976, reported that the meat of a pig killed on the 17th of October, otherwise known as the feast day of St. Ignatius, was a good way to guard against vampires, according to Romanian legend. A common way to identify a vampire was to place a 7-year-old boy dressed in white on a white horse near the graveyard at midday. It was believed that the horse would stop at the grave of the suspected vampire.
Well, that's just a lot of horse shit.
Well, what's funny is it comes back in another culture. So.
And so that was saying, did y'all eat pork? I missed it. I didn't know about October 17th.
I don't know if I ate pork on October 17th.
I'm pretty sure it was chicken.
I think it was. Then there's the Moroi, which is a Romanian folklore, similar to a Strigoi, but it's a werewolf. It's the child of a woman impregnated by a Nosferat, which is also a type of vampire.
The bringer of plague.
And then the child would be extremely ugly, covered with thick hair, and very quickly would become a Moroi. Modern culture has it as being living offspring of two Strigoi. So, I don't know. It was just, there's a lot. I don't understand the whole
It is a lot. It is a lot of lore.
Yes. So then...
all over the world.
It really is. Okay. Let's go to the Caribbean. So, Coyant. Among other names is a kind of shape-shifting, blood-sucking hag.
Nice.
Present in Caribbean folklore. Reclusive old woman by day, and strips off her wrinkled skin at night and places it in a mortar and flies across the dark sky in the form of a fireball in search of a victim.
What the fuck?
Enters homes through any small hole such as a crack or a keyhole. It sucks from the arms, legs, necks, and other soft regions at night, leaving blue and black bruising on the body seen in the morning.
They've been smoking some of that Jamaican red hair.
They sure have. To expose them, you place a heap of rice around your house and village, and the creature is obligated to pick it up grain by grain.
And count the grains.
Yes, and it comes up later too. Grain by grain, and be caught in the act of gathering, and that's how you find out. You place salt in the mortar that holds the skin, and then she will be unable to put it back on and therefore dies.
When you say mortar?
Like a box.
Okay,
mortar
not mortar,
yes.
Mortar and pestle?
Like yes, but it was made out of that, and it's like a box.
Huh.
So it's kind of... And so, the skin is valuable and used in black magic rituals. So in order to make sure she dies, I guess wherever she stays, you find her skin, you put salt in the mortar where her skin is, it dries it up, she's unable to put it back on, and then she dies.
Make jerky.
Gross. Yeah, you use it in black magic. A Sequoiant was seen in season 3, episode 6 of the Sleepy Hollow.
I've never watched that
show.
I hadn't either.
If the Winchester boys didn't go after one, I don't know.
Scotland. Babin Sea. Female fairy of Scottish Highland folklore that is said to seduce victims with her beauty before killing them. Numerous stories with the theme of hunters being attacked at night in the wilderness. The men typically request female companionship, and then women appear and dance and drink with them. And then one hunter will notice blood dripping from his buddies. He flees the cabin, shed, tent, whatever they're in, only to find his friends drained of blood when he returns. It is said that this one person is saved among the horses due to the iron on the reins, as fairies have a vulnerability to iron.
So this is a type of fairy. You know,
type of a
Gaelic
fairy.
Fairies are not like Tinkerbell. They're
yes,
mostly unpleasant things.
Yes, Scottish belief that if you request companionship without God's protection, your wish will be granted in a terrible manner.
It sounds like a succubus.
It's very much like a succubus.
Wow.
Scarlett Johansson's character in Under the Skin is thought to be loosely based on this.
I have heard that's a great film. I've never seen it, but I know.
Then we move on to what you talked about, Slavic Russian. Strazegas.
Yeah.
Also like the Umpirs. Yes, Umpirs. Okay. So,
I'm not going to argue any pronunciation tonight. I'm sorry.
I mean, there's some hard words to say. I don't know how those people get the words out of
There are times when you guys, y'all bomb me because I'm like, I say something wrong or the wrong pronunciation, and I get it, but I am not talking about anybody's pronunciation tonight. I'm just looking at some of these because you guys, of course, didn't.
I mean, you think about some of the, like, Slobodan Milosevic, Nicolae Ceausescu. What?
So, a Strazegas is a female demon in Slavic mythology. People born with 2 hearts and 2 souls and 2 sets of teeth. Also, people with no armpit hair, sleepwalkers, and newborns born with teeth were said to be Strazegas. It was said to die at a young age, and one of their 2 souls would come back to its body and prey upon the living. It is believed to fly at night in the form of an owl and attack night travelers and those who had wandered into the woods at night, and they would suck their blood and eat their insides. You could prevent resurrection of the Strazegas by cutting off their heads and burying away from the body. You also can bury the body face down with a sickle around the head.
I've seen a grave. Matter of fact, I have a picture of it on my phone of an archaeological dig with a
Sickle?
from the time period from the Balkans of it's not face down, but it's face up, but there is a sickle blade placed right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other methods that you could use, you could burn the body, hammer, nails, stakes, etc. into various parts of the Strazega's body, putting a flint in its mouth after exhumation, peeling the church bells. The Strazega then turns into tar.
Wait, what?
Peeling, ringing the church bells.
Oh.
Slapping it across the face with one's left hand.
Bitch.
Yes.
Just don't do it with the right.
Don't do it with the right,
You
apparently.
pimp slap it?
Burying it again outside of the village and pinning it down with a big rock. Scattering poppy seeds in the shape of a cross in every corner of the house. Exhumation in the presence of a priest and burying the body again after additional rituals, such as putting pieces of paper with the word Jesus written on it under the Strazega's tongue. Also putting small objects in the Strazega's grave to make it count them.
Rice.
Yep.
What is it with the
seeds.
counting thing? That's so strange.
Apparently they have to count.
Isn't that the thing with the leprechaun? You throw the girl down, they have to stop and count.
They do have a great gag. I think it's in season 5 in the newest season of What We Do in the Shadows. Mm-hmm. And Laszlo, his got rice thrown on the ground and he's there. Like, what are you doing? I'm trying to disprove this nonsense myth that vampires have to count every grain of rice and that he just gets stuck and he can't stop counting.
Then you have the Upirs, which you've already said. It's Russian Slavic folklore, said to be the prototype of a vampire. A person cursed before death dies suddenly or his corpses have been desecrated. Also, become a Umpir if an animal jumped over a dead person. You could.
Well, I mean, squirrels in the graveyard all the time.
I guess before you're buried. Someone that unalives themselves, witches, unchristened children, and those killed by another Umpir. Women that died during childbirth or shortly after were seen as vulnerable to turning into one because they would come back and feed the child at night. Those that were physically different were also...
Did you say feed the child or beat the child?
Feed.
No.
And not feed on the child, but feed the child.
I get it, yeah.
Those that were also physically different were said to be vulnerable, such as redheads, people with unibrows, double sets of teeth.
I'm going to have to go agree on the unibrow thing.
This double set of teeth, again, a limp, no armpit or pubic hair, a big head, or walking by moonlight. Also, if you've been buried in an old shirt... or if your family has burned a picture of you posthumously, it can lead to a transformation.
In an old shirt?
Yep, old shirt. Don't get buried. You better buy a new shirt. You always have your...
And walking after moonlight, I mean, back then, that was your only option if you had to go somewhere for dark.
I know. Well, I guess you shouldn't.
But think about it. People didn't go anywhere after dark a lot of times back then.
Because they were afraid of all this nonsense.
Right, exactly. You didn't want to get out there and get by an Umpir or whatever.
Those superstitious primitives?
It was also said that innocent children could ride a horse and pick out the grave of an Umpir, very much like the Strigoi. They can be seen in the mirror in the evening, so people in a certain region would not look into mirrors after dusk.
I wonder if that's where the whole Dracula can't see his reflection.
They say a vampire can't see its reflection.
But other people can see them in the mirror. Other people can see them.
Oh.
It's often described as having 2 hearts and 2 souls, just like the Strazigas. They arrive at night carrying their head, or if heads were attached, they had glowing wolf-like eyes. Drank human blood and superhuman strength would tear bodies to shreds. They could kill with their breath or shriek.
I know some people who kill with their breath.
I've known a few like that.
They harassed people at night and made them suffocate or sleepwalk. If you were harassed by one, you could impede its return to its grave and it would disappear or turn into black tar at sunup.
Yeah, like
he does. Except they just, woo. You can also drink its blood and eat soil off of its grave to protect yourself.
Wait, then the other ones, if you drink the blood, that's how you get turned. That's how they turn.
Right. Apparently, this is how you avoid one. You should not take the dead out the main door of the home, or they can become umpirs.
What if you only got one door?
You have to literally make a hole, like the people have made holes. If thought to be an umpire or the grave of one, you perform a vampire burial. You cut the head off, place between the legs of the corpse. You can burn the corpse, you can nail the corpse to the coffin, or you can place it face down.
Did you say cut the head off straight, place it between the legs? So this is also a Norse thing with the droig, I can't remember how you say it, but which is essentially a reanimated corpse. And that's how you kill it, is you cut its head off and then you stick its head right up there.
Oh wow!
Its ass, right? And it's a great depiction of this in the film The Northman. And and it's like a dead-on historical record that was an actual belief.
Oh wow!
But it's interesting that that's a completely different culture we're talking about.
Yeah, but they do the same
Scandinavia.
Same thing.
You can also bury it with garlic, bricks, or iron chunks placed in the mouth at burial. Rose, hawthorn, or blackthorn branches placed in the coffin. Coffins can be sprinkled with poppy seeds, so they have to pick up each seed. Once again, the counting. And you can also place nets or knots or something to untangle in the coffin to occupy them.
Oh. Throw the damn fidget spinners in there.
Then you have German Nachzerher. German folklore that means after living off, likely referring to living after death or living off humans after death. Commonly created after undeading or unaliving himself. And sometimes accidental death. Transformation happens after death. It's not communicable and cannot happen by being bitten or scratched. It can be related to sickness and disease on a large scale, i.e. a large group of people die of the plague. The first person that died becomes the Nachzerer. Patient zero causing the death. If name not removed from burial clothing, you can return as one.
What?
Apparently, if you had your name on your burial clothing, you could return as one of these.
These are so strange.
Just some dumb beliefs.
But here comes to where devours its family members upon waking and has been said to devour their own bodies to include the clothing. And the more of themselves they ate, the more their family was physically drained. Similar to the Slavic vampire that visits family. Official killing myth is to place a coin in the mouth and chop off its head. Identifying it is easy as they are loud when they're eating their funeral clothing and or they lie in their grave with their thumb in the opposite hand and the left eye open.
Wait, what?
Yes. That's how you identify them. Or you can hear them while they're eating their funeral clothing. Then you have the Albanian Striga.
There's that. These all have the same root.
They do. Albanian mythology, a vampiric witch that sucks blood of infants while sleeping at night, then turns into a flying insect, moth, bee, or fly. Only the witch herself can cure those she has drained by spitting in their mouths. And if they are uncured, they'll fall ill and die.
Yeah, they're not to steal your thunder. But there is a Filipino myth of a very similar hag that will come in. Exact same story, basically.
Really? That it would come and do that? Well, this is Albania. They do the same thing.
That's a long way from the Philippines.
This person has a hateful stare, disfigured face, and wears a cape. Have the evil eye, so avoid direct eye contact.
Bat.
They live hidden in forests and have supernatural powers. You become one by being childless or envious of others. To ward it off, you pinch off salt. Take a pinch of salt and put it over your closed eyes, mouth, heart, opposite side of your heart, pit of stomach, then throw salt in direct flames, similar to the Catholic crossing of oneself.
Oh.
Some regions of Albania have used garlic to send away the evil eye or placed a puppet in a house being built to catch evil during the build. Newborns, children, and beautiful girls are said to be more susceptible, so people will say mashallah and touch the child's nose to ward off the evil eye. This actually is also in Mexican culture, because when I lived in very South Texas when I was a small child, and they have a thing about curly-haired people. They think that they're special. I'm not special, I just have curly hair. But they would take their hands and go like this and say they were warding off the evil eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you think a child is beautiful, you're supposed to touch the child's face like that.
And of course, now we're like, don't touch the child.
Oh, yeah. Wait, here's the hand sanitizer before you touch the baby.
Right.
So Striga, the Albanian version, was featured in a supernatural episode called Something Wicked, where it attacked children and left them in comas, then pretended to be a doctor so it could return to feed on them. It was killed by being shot in the head with a concentrated iron bullet. All the children attacked returned to normal.
Well, the Winchester boys, they'll take care of it.
My last one is in the South Pacific. It's a Talamar. It's the vampire legend in the Banks Islands in South Pacific. You controlled the ghost of a dead person and could use it to drain life from the living or recently deceased. The power of a Talamar could be gained by eating part of a corpse and gaining kinship with the departed soul.
Ew.
Could be identified by burning of certain leaves, where the smoke would cause the Talamar to shout the name of the deceased person whose ghost it controlled and whom it was afflicting.
Wow, very interesting. So yeah, I mean, this is...
So that was a loose one, because it's not necessarily about drinking blood, but it did drain the life of the victims, so like a succubus, I guess.
This is all over the world, though, and that's what I think is so interesting about it, is because it's not
so
something
similar.
that's just...
Well, some of these are so similar, especially the European ones, that from far flung, like I'm going to tell you about this is Ireland. This is a Celtic thing that goes back probably around 400 AD. Like, so these things, I think there's probably some.
I'm hitting the table. He told me to stop.
Oh, that there is probably
She's hitting the table.
There's probably some deep legend that that's long forgotten history. It goes back to deep Indo-European roots, like in the Levant, like in what is now Turkish, probably 12,000 years ago, when they first started planting, make crops and stuff. You know, it probably goes way back. It might even go back to the cave.
So yeah, it's just, I mean, it's like all over the world though, and some of it's so similar. You know, it's like, so you've got the Slavic, and you've got the Irish, and you've got the Scottish, and then you've got the Filipinos, and you got the ones in the Caribbean, and it's like, man, it's everybody has their version, and a lot of times the versions cross, you know.
Especially the European, or the ones with Indo-European roots.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Ancient astronaut theorists would say.
Yeah, right?
Aliens.
Okay, I'm not saying it was aliens, but we know it was aliens. Okay, so John's got a special story about an Irish vampire.
Excuse me. Good grief. Hey, I muted it before. Anyway.
Go ahead.
So, this is the tale of Abertach. So, Abertach is an ancient Irish...
And Fitch?
Abertach.
And Fitch?
That's Abercrombie.
That's Abercrombie. That was you. You misspelled it the other day when you messaged me. And that's why I said, what about Fitch? Abertach is an ancient Irish legend. It is probably, in oral history, dates back to sometime between 300 and 500 AD. So we'll throw it at 400 AD. So we're talking 1600 years ago. Now, it may have been partial inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Like the Strigoi.
Like the Strigoi, or like, you know, like the actual, like, Vlad the Impaler tapestry. It's the coolest nickname ever. But, so the legend was first put to paper by Patrick Weston Joyce in his 1870 book, The Origins and History of Irish Names and Places. And like many legends, there's many versions, right? So I'm just going to give you a couple. I mean, the two basic versions. Now, according to Joyce, Abertach was a chieftain. By the way, Abertach in Irish means dwarf.
Oh.
Okay.
So, either he was or wasn't, who knows, right? And sometimes he's referred to as the Abertach.
Okay.
But this was in the area of Aragol, at the town of Slacktaverty.
Yep.
Havarti?
Yep.
Slacktaverty, in what is now County Londonderry in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Now, he's said to have been a black magician and a terrible tyrant who visited all sorts of cruelties upon his subjects. And
That means he did bad things to him.
he did bad things to him. He was a bad guy. He practiced witchcraft and all this stuff. So, and he was killed by a rival chieftain. Now, some versions of the story say it's the legendary Irish hero Finn McCool. But there's other versions, right? Mm-hmm. So, whoever, the rival chieftain, killed him. And then Abertach was buried in a standing position in a dolmen, which is a passage grave. You see them all over Ireland, right? These stone passage graves. So he was buried standing up. But the next day, he's back. And he's pissed.
He's resurrected.
He's not happy. And as Joyce said, he appeared in his old haunts. And was crueler than ever.
He was buried in an old shirt, wasn't he?
He might have been buried in an old shirt.
I bet he was.
There's where it came from.
And it has his
name on the burial clothes.
Yeah.
His name right here. Says,
Steve.
It's Abertach. Hi, my name is Abertach.
Steve Abertach.
Oh, so the chieftain, Finn McCool, whoever, he comes back, he hears that he's back, that he's still alive, so he comes back and he kills him again. Again, buries him, standing up at his dolmen, because this is a highborn, so he would give the privilege of that no matter how bad he was, right? And comes back again.
They need to cut his head off, apparently.
He comes back again. So, this time, our chieftain, let's just say Finn McCool in this version, he consults a druid. And the druid tells him how to make sure that Abertach stays in his grave. And it's very vague about this, except that it says to bury him upside down and cover his grave with a large stone.
Okay. We've seen that.
To subdue his magical powers. Yeah. So head down, feet up. Face down, ass up. Yeah. So, now in the alternate version, the Abertach is slain by the chieftain Cahan, or Cathan, who is O'Cathan, who was the founder of the O'Cathan clan.
Mel Gibson?
No.
Okay.
Irish clans, not right. Okay. And modern day anglicized Irish, it's the Keane family. So. When Abertach rises from the grave this time, he's demanding blood from his subjects. Not to bite him on the neck, but to, what do you call that when they bleed themselves? Right?
Like a
bloodletting?
Bloodletting. And to give him the blood so that he can eat it, right? So, and in the other version, this alternate version, Cathan consults an early Christian saint rather than
the pagan druid.
Well, this would have been after St. So that's the thing, is the whole standing burial was because St. Patrick was buried standing. So St. Patrick died in 432, 434, somewhere around there. So that's why we'll throw 400 at this, right?
Gotcha.
So, but it depends on who's telling it. So this is how legends change over time. It would have been a druid. And then after Christianization, it would have been a saint, right?
Gotcha.
So, like, my story is the way I tell them, like, she was a 5, but when I tell it, she's a 10.
Right.
At least a 9, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's how it's the same stuff with Christmas, which used to be Yule or Saturnalia, and now it's Christmas. Yeah, right. So, the saint tells him that Abertach has become Nev Merv, Hopefully I'm saying it, I'm probably butchering this, but it's Irish, it means walking dead. And to slay him for good, he must make a sword out of the wood of a yew tree.
Hey, there was yew of a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Stab it through his heart, bury him upside down, surrounded by thorns and under rocks.
Just cut his head off and be done.
Yeah, he tried that though. It didn't work. Like
we don't know if he cut his head off or not. It's kind of vague on that.
No,
gotcha.
okay.
They said he killed him.
I'm sure if you were to go to Slach Verde, they would have a very colorful, long version that they could tell you over several pints at the
local pub.
Right?
Local pub.
And because you would go there because the grave is there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It is there. It is now known as Slach Verde Dolmen. And the locals call it the Giant's Grave, which is ironic considering
because
what
his name was
Abertach
Forth.
means. Right. And it comprises a large rock and 2 smaller stones under a hawthorn.
Of course. Did he die that time when they did it that time?
Yeah, that time he did it, right? So it's located in the town of Slach Verde, just north of Magera in County Londonderry, Northern Ireland. It is there today. I mean, you could look it up. You could see pictures of it.
Huh.
Allegedly in 1997, attempts were made to clear the land by workmen, which is how these horror movies start.
Right. They accidentally knocked over the... Okay.
But they said that when they tried to cut down the hawthorn, that the chainsaw kept malfunctioning. They couldn't get it to work. And then when they tried to move the stone, a chain snapped, cut one of the laborers, and he bled, and his blood sucked into the ground. And so no further attempts have been made to clear the land and remove the stone or the hawthorn. They just left it there. Plus, it's a tourist attraction.
Oh, yeah.
True.
People want to go there and see this, right? Because it's actually a fairly famous thing. And then there's this whole connection with Stoker. So, although we know that Vlad the Impaler Tepish is undoubtedly partial inspiration for Stoker's Dracula.
Right.
An alternative inspiration was put forward by Bob Curran, who is a lecturer in Celtic history and folklore at the University of Ulster. In the summer 2000 edition of History Ireland, where he suggested that Stoker may have derived his inspiration from the legend of Abertach. And there are certainly similarities between Count Dracula and Abertach. Both Abertach and Dracula have high birth and are dead and can reanimate and emerge from a grave and/or coffin.
Okay.
Both characters terrify the town and country they reside in. Both characters can only finally be killed and remain dead after being either impaled with a wooden stake or killed with a sword of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And both were said to consume human blood. And there was a chance Stoker was a sickly child and an avid reader. Consumed many, when he was young, he spent many years convalescing and reading. And so there's a very good chance that in addition to reading stuff about Wallachia and Vlad, which they never actually calls him that, but he also consumed, probably, had heard the Abertach legend.
It's interesting that you're talking about how Dracula, terrorized the country that he lived in, because one of the stories that I heard about Abertach, not only was it just the village, but like the third time that
the entire country.
Yeah, the entire countryside,
right.
He terrorized them. It wasn't just that village.
Right.
So, yeah, just like Dracula, did that. There is only one film about this, and it's a great one. It's a 2021 Irish film called The Boys from County Hell.
Yeah, I see this.
In which Abertach is the bad guy. Now, it's a cairn, not a dolmen. And they got to make way for a roadway, so they got to knock over the cairn. But they play up the whole Stoker connection there in their little town, and the pub is called the Stoker.
Yeah.
They have tourists coming through all the time wanting to see it. So, Anyway, that's also a great movie. Not a dwarf in that movie. Big, tall, skinny.
Not a dwarf in that movie.
Looks.
Big dude.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when he rises from the grave. What comes out first is a foot just pops out of it's buried upside down, right?
Oh, so yeah, that's right.
Foot that pop out,
foot comes up.
It's a horror comedy, by the way, but it's excellent. It's an excellent film. I've seen it twice. And also there's one called From the Dark that is and also an Irish horror film, loosely kind of inspired by this. But not instead of knocking over a cairn, there's a pitch farmer who is digging up a peat bog and uncovers a tied down corpse,
like they would have done a pier.
Exactly, right. But they don't specifically say Abertag, but they do say Abertag and play up this legend a lot in Boys from County Hell. If you haven't seen it, it is free to watch if you have the Shudder.
Is it funny?
Or AMC Plus. It is funny, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really funny stuff where they say, "Folk 'em out" when the foot pops out of the grave. You know, a fucking vampire just came out of the ground and chased us down here.
So obviously, vampires have been around forever and ever and ever in our legends, in our ingrained in our almost our DNA memory. You know, and so people have been writing about it forever. You mentioned that Bram Stoker was an avid reader. And so one of the things I want to touch on tonight are the different books. And honestly, most of these I have read, so I can honestly say, yeah, you should read this. It's a good book. The first one, of course,
Bram Stoker's Dracula,
is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Yes. And so I will say that this is an old English novel. If you have a hard time getting through, like the parts in the Bible, begat so-and-so, begat so-and-so, begat so-and-so.
It's not written in Old English. It's 1897. I mean, it's the same English we speak now.
Correct. Understood. But I would say that 1897 is old.
There is a thing, it's Old English, though,
yes,
which is actually
written,
German,
not
which you would not
like
even
that,
recognize.
No.
It's like Shakespeare.
Okay. Are you splitting hairs with me?
Is it Shakespeare's Middle English?
No.
I know it's Middle English, so we're not talking Shakespeare.
God. No. So, there's Dracula. It is hard to get through the first part of that book. The first half of it is boring.
Oh, like that whale thing.
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick is one of those
whale thing. Yes.
Hey, but I knew what he said. I knew what he was talking about.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That's another one. It's a hard read.
Anything Lord Byron wrote.
Okay.
You want to eat a bullet.
Anyway, moving on. Dracula by Bram Stoker. Great book. Goes into the vampire tales, Transylvania, and it tells the story about how he goes from Transylvania to England.
I still want to go there.
I know you England to Romania.
Romania, Transylvania.
Yeah, she wants to go. And if there wasn't like a war going on, like right in the country right next to it, I would say yeah, maybe.
Does Romania border Ukraine?
It borders Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah.
So that's a hard pass for me.
Should go to Croatia instead. Beautiful.
So, okay, and these are in no particular order, but I think that these are all good reads. The Vampire Lestat, not the interview. Have you read it?
No, but
then you should not sigh.
But it sounds like Anne Rice to me.
It is Anne Rice, but you should not sigh because until you've read it, you can't pass judgment. So the Vampire Lestat, which is actually a prequel.
Well, I figured that. Yeah,
it's a prequel and a sequel.
A prequel.
It's a prequel and a sequel to Interview with a Vampire because it begins before.
And finishes after.
So, and it where the Vampire Lestat ends, then the next one, Queen of the Damned, begins right after that. I mean, immediately over one night.
Yeah, I've never seen Queen of the Damned. I've seen Interview with the Vampire once, which was enough. But
yeah. It was a decent movie, I thought.
I thought it was okay.
Okay. Anyway, the book is really good, and it tells about Lestat de Liancourt, who is this charismatic, rebellious vampire. And so in Interview with the Vampire, Lestat is this horrible
Wait, is he
creature.
Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt?
He is Tom Cruise.
Okay.
So he is this horrible creature in Interview with the Vampire. But Lestat is told almost as an autobiography. So he tells it from his perspective, which is completely different than the way it's told in Interview with the Vampire. So he tells it how he's not really that much of a bad guy. He's just surviving. So then you have Salem's Lot, Stephen King.
That's a good-looking vampire in that.
Creepy, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't look like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Robert Pattinson.
Oh my God!
Twilight.
Yeah, those books aren't listed.
Dear
actually.
Lord.
Salem's Lot is by Stephen King, where a novelist returns to his childhood home in Jerusalem's Lot, which Salem's Lot is short for, and only to discover that a malevolent vampire named Kurt Barlow has settled there, turning the town residents into the undead.
I like it because he looks like Nosferatu.
He does look like Nosferatu.
The ears and everything.
My favorite part of that movie, and we'll get to that later, but my favorite part of the movie where he goes, back, Shaman, back. It's so funny. I just love that part.
I haven't seen it since the 90s, probably. But
okay, the next one, Let the Right One In, by Jan Avide Lindqvist.
So that was a book first.
It was a book
I've heard
first.
It's a fantastic movie.
We watched it.
The foreign language one, not the...
we watched the Swedish one.
Yeah, I've heard that's a great movie. I've never seen it, but
I really enjoyed it.
The book is good. Bestsellers everywhere. Bestseller lists. It's a coming-of-age story is what it is. It's not just vampires. So you can get more out of it than just the vampire part of it. But anyway, it's this boy named Oscar who's bullied, and Ellie is this mysterious young girl who moves in next door, and they become friends. And
Ely.
Maybe I have seen the movie because this is extremely familiar. Like maybe I've seen it.
Yeah, it's great.
Before, yeah.
Good book too. Okay, and about 50 years before Bram Stoker came out with Dracula, you remember The Count of Monte Cristo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Alexander
Dumas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not talking about sandwich or the cigar, but
that's a good point.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the book. Alexander Dumas wrote a novella, The Pale Lady, gothic horror, and it's about a vampire. So those are some really good books. If you want to get into classical literature, then of course Pale Lady and Dracula. If you want more modern, then you're looking at and really good reads. Really, really immersive. God. Yeah, I purposefully skipped over that one. Unfairly, I have not read Twilight because I don't believe vampires are sparkly, twinkly things in the sunlight.
I know, but in the height of teenage angst, I did read the entire series in a week.
There should be pointed out there is a large age difference between the two of us.
Yes, that should be pointed out. Also,
when I read it, it was 15 years ago.
Why the hell can't we have Blade versus Twilight?
Yes,
I mean we've had Alien versus Predator. Let's have Blade versus Twilight.
Because the Daywalker would wipe out Team Edward.
And also Wesley Snipes. That's who it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is way hotter than Robert Pattinson.
Well, wait till you see. Yeah. So they're redoing Blade for the new MCU, and Mahershala Ali has been tapped to play, and he's already made his first appearance at the end of the Eternals, I think, in a post-credit scene as Blade. So that's going to be super exciting that there are new Blade movies coming because I really enjoyed those.
I had to put a little punch there for the Twilight, though.
Except for Trinity.
Because that's what all the young bucks.
Except for the dumb one, the third one with Ryan Reynolds in it kind of sucked. But the first two were great.
Okay, so you mentioned movies, and what was the first vampire movie? Anybody?
Nosferatu.
Do you know when it was?
1912.
It was really long ago. 1922.
1922.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Really?
Yeah.
I literally pulled that straight out of my arse.
Did it tickle?
It did.
So, Nosferatu, Symphony of Horror is the actual title. Not just Nosferatu, but Nosferatu.
It was silent, wasn't it?
1922, yes.
Did you know that Robert Eggers, who made The Vavitch and The Lighthouse and The Northman, is remaking Nosferatu.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's going to be a good
Is it
flick,
silent?
Probably not. But, but it's Robert Eggers does not miss. I have not seen Lighthouse, but The Vavitch and The Northman are fantastic films.
I loved Nosferatu because he looks so goofy with his ears and his nose.
No, that's what they're supposed to look like. They're not supposed to look
I know,
like
but it's
I
like,
love that.
What you know is like Thriller.
Yeah, oh, I know.
Well, what I like,
and it's also Ghost.
I like
the cover of one of their albums.
That's true. Yes,
he is posing as Nosferatu on the ship.
The EP, If You Have Ghosts.
Mm-hmm. The
by the
band.
way, produced by Dave Grohl.
Foo Fighters.
The cover is an image of him on the ship, but then it's not in the Papa Emeritus thing. But I like the cinematography in Nosferatu, like those shots.
Yeah,
the
it's really
shadows
cool.
coming in very
well. That's back
for
when
the
it
time
was
period. Like
what you think about it when you do
We're
a movie
using light because you
that's all you had.
Exactly,
didn't have
you didn't
words.
have colors and you didn't have things like that. You had to set up the scene based on what it looked like in black and white. And I thought it's a good movie. I mean, if you haven't seen it,
it is. It is. It's.
I'm super excited about the Robert Eggers redoing this.
That should be a lot of fun. So Nosferatu, 1922, tells the story of Count Orlok instead of Dracula. Terrorizes a small town. Same story. Dracula, 1931. Directed by Todd Browning and starring Bela Lugosi, the best vampire ever. But this is the cinematic adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel and follows Count Dracula all the way across from England Transylvania to England.
On the Demeter, which is another film that I haven't seen yet, but I've heard great things about the voyage of the Demeter.
Okay, so let's move up to 1970. We have Count Dracula.
Blackula.
Huh? No, Count Dracula, 1970.
That's a great one, by the way.
Was a British adaptation of the Dracula story, and this was featuring
Christopher
Lee.
Hammer films were the
Hammer
greatest.
films were amazing. Christopher Lee. I liked Bela Lugosi, but I still think Christopher Lee was the best vampire because that's the one I remember as a child growing up watching vampire movies.
I just remember saying all those Hammer films were great.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So then let's move on to 1979 when you have Salem's Lot, and this was Hutch, who played the novelist who comes home to Jerusalem. David Soul.
Hutch is David Soul. Oh.
David Soul. Yeah.
Oh wow! I had to remember that.
Yeah, he was the one that played. I forget his name, but the novelist who comes home and he's going to write his great novel there. I
hadn't seen that movie in 20 years.
Oh my God, I still remember it. And on up into 1987. In 1987, we got a little campier, but this is a cult classic. You have to see this vampire movie if you have not seen it, and that is The Lost Boys.
The two brothers
that move out. The Coreys. And they move out to this place in California. Kiefer Sutherland.
And that
Patrick.
That buff guy with the saxophone. Anyway.
I don't know his name, but I'm sure you can find it. Anyway, the older brother, Patrick, Sean Patrick, Michael Patrick, something Patrick, gets sucked in.
Sean Patrick Flannery? Is it the guy from Boondock Saints? I
can't
remember. I've only seen Lost Boys a couple
times. I forget his name. Anyway, he gets sucked into the vampire gang because it's hot chick and all 80s flicks, But anyway, and then they kill off Dracula, I guess. What represents Dracula? No, not him, but the master. They kill off the master.
I don't even remember him.
I forget his name, but anyway, they kill him off in an interesting way. So moving on up into 1992, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and probably a vampire movie with more clout than any other. You have Bram Stoker's. Is it Bram or Bram?
I like to say Bram.
Bram,
because he's Irish. Say
Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and probably, as far as a serious Dracula movie, probably my favorite favorite movie because it very much follows the book.
And there's John Wick in it.
Huh?
John Wick is in it.
Oh, yeah. Keanu Reeves plays the real estate dude or the insurance guy.
Yeah.
So, John Wick's in there. That movie, though, really follows the book. I mean, if you've read the book, then the movie is going to be no disappointment.
That guy still stood out in London. Like, I mean, people would have been like, what the hell is this guy wearing? Even
right. Okay, so in 1994, then, you have Interview with the Vampire. John's favorite movie. I think it was a great movie.
I mean, I liked it better than I presume I would like any of those Twilight crap.
So let's throw out.
Yes.
But I still didn't care for it.
So the movies we're seeing for a few things. One, it has Kirsten Dunst.
No, it's just ST, bro.
I know.
Dunst.
Yes, bring it on.
Dunst.
Remember?
Yes.
Bring it on. I like that movie.
Dunst. Kirsten Dunst.
Movie.
Before she did Bring It On, and before she did Spider-Man,
she's a kid.
She did Interview with the Vampire.
She was the kid, right?
She was the little girl.
Okay, yeah.
And if no one deserved a supporting role for Academy Award that year, other than her, nobody did. Because she should have gotten an Academy Award for her performance. I thought she was an amazing
I think she deserved one for Bring It On, but...
well, yeah, I'm sure you do. So anyway, I mean, it was great. And you got to hear Sympathy for the Devil by Guns N' Roses.
Really? That wasn't that?
Yeah.
I just remember that's from the Spaghetti
and
Incident.
Hearing Axl Rose sing that is just like, man, that's really cool. I mean,
was it like an end credit thing? I haven't seen this movie since it was new. Some chick probably made me watch it.
Yeah. I'm sure she did. But anyway, so at the end of the movie, yeah, you get to hear that song. It's a great song.
You could also just go on whatever music platform you like and check out the Spaghetti Incident. I believe that's their covers album.
Is it?
Guns N' Roses did. Yeah, it's on that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It really is.
Probably one of the least favorite Tom Cruise films.
So let's talk about. So Windows is trying to get me to sign in. I don't want to. Okay, so 1996, you have From Dusk Till Dawn.
That was a good one.
So he likes this one.
I like that one.
Written by Quentin Tarantino. So
you do strike me as a Tarantino fan.
Directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Yes.
Starring Quentin Tarantino, George Clooney, Harvey Keitel, Danny Trejo, of course, like everything directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Juliette Lewis.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. The striptease scene by what's her name, Salma Hayek.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's
she's
worth it for that.
Awesome.
Nothing else.
And also Cheech Marin is in it, and so is Tom Savini, the makeup effects artist guy. He's the guy with the little pistol that pops out of his belt buckle.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So that's Tom Savini, and he did all the special effect, the makeup and gore and stuff for it.
Didn't he do?
He did a lot of stuff.
Yeah. He did some other stuff too. Okay, so 1998. We need to move on through this. We're dragging. John Carpenter's Vampires.
I like that one. I enjoyed that James Wood performance. And Bobby Elvis gets split in half.
James Woods is an excellent actor.
Yeah. And Bobby Elvis gets split in half in that. He answers the door and.
Okay, 1998. Wesley Snipes.
Blade.
The original movie, not all the sequels, but the original.
It's open season on
all day with the best song in the nightclub.
Blade. That thing. Oh my god, I love that song.
Which is Confusion by New Order. It's a remix of New Order.
And the chick that's walking dude in. Did you know that's Tracy Lords?
No, Tracy Lords is the blonde chick. That's
who walks him into the club.
I thought it was a brunette that walked him in because she got killed right away. Tracy Lords walks him into the club.
And it doesn't matter. Blade's just a great movie.
Tracy Lords walks him into the club. It does matter because Tracy Lords walks him in the club, and he tries to kiss her, and she pushes him away like this, and then she starts kissing and dancing on the other girl that's right there. That's Tracy Lords.
You know who the guy is that she brings in the club, right?
Yes. I can't remember his name, but
he was in Sons of Anarchy and in The Shield.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so... Anyway.
Vampires.
Yeah. We're talking about Blade. Okay.
No, you're talking about Tracy Lords. Was she a vampire?
Yes, she was, as a matter of fact, in that movie.
No, but she was a minor.
And those cats that I told you wouldn't be...
films.
I said would be meowing or
Keep going.
I don't want to.
What's the next one?
In 2000, we have Shadow of the Vampire.
No, I'm familiar.
No.
Oh, my God. That is so freaking cool. Directed by E. Malias Merhige. It offers a fictionalized take, I'm going to read you this directly, of the making of the 1922 film Nosferatu.
Oh, I have heard of this.
Imagining the actor Max Schreck, who played the vampire, might have been a real vampire.
Is it like John Malkovich?
Yes.
Okay, I do know what you're talking about.
And he's trying to control the vampire throughout this show while he's filming. But the vampire, all he wants to do is eat and suck blood, and and he's like, dude, you can't do that shit right now. You gotta chill.
I've never
until
seen
we get the movie made.
I do know what you're talking about now.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. Moving on up into the 2000s, we have Underworld.
The whole series, anything Kate Beckinsale in that tight black
In
costume.
full leather.
Yeah, but man, that first one was great. Okay.
Lichens.
So yeah, the first one, Underworld, in
Really
2003.
And it had good werewolves in it. Like the CG was good for the time.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Okay, so in 2008, we have a Swedish film directed by Thomas Alfredson that we watched, and just
Let
the
the
other
right
night,
one in.
Let the right one in, and do yourself a favor, watch the Swedish version and take your time and read the subtitles. Correct?
Yes.
Very good movie.
I've never seen the English language one, but after you started telling the plot, I was like, yeah, I have seen the Swedish one. I have seen that.
But the English one's called Let Me In. It's not.
Yes.
It's not
Let
called
Me
Let
In.
the Right One In. Okay, Let Me In. Okay.
Yeah, Let the Right One In is the Swedish version.
Swedish, and it's good.
Okay, so in 2013, and I'm not a fan typically of found footage films since Blair Witch, because Blair Witch did it first and did it better, I think. But there is a movie called Afflicted in 2013, and it's a found footage vampire movie that tells the story of two friends who are traveling across, I want to say Europe. He hooks up with this girl, gets vampirism, just the way that the whole...
Yeah, I think I've watched this.
Great movie. The trailer runs in reverse. Have you noticed? Well, it shows scenes in reverse. So it starts off at the end of the movie and goes to the first of the movie.
I know. I've seen the film.
It's great.
Yeah, I've seen the film. I like found footage movies.
Do you?
And this one, honorable mention, I think, for one of the best vampire movies. And I don't know that I would say this is like the be all end all of all vampire movies, but Dracula Untold.
I like it.
I think it's a good movie.
I do. I like it when he turns into the big fly. Okay, no, wait, spoilers. It's worth a watch because you get to see his history and him having to stay as a guest of the Ottomans. And
and here's the thing.
Now, Dominic Cooper as playing the Turkish guy when he's like a white British actor is kind of odd, but I like that movie.
Okay, so the thing about that movie that I really appreciated, was that just like in Walking Dead, if you watch it far enough through, you see how Negan, this horrible person, becomes Negan. And you know what I'm talking about?
I never made it past
like the history of
I never made it past
him
killing
you get to
Glenn.
see the transformation, just like in Breaking Bad, where you get to see how Walter White goes from this uber mild-mannered chemistry teacher to this, meth king.
Right.
So you get to see that transformation.
Yeah.
You get to see the transformation in Dracula Untold because you see the reasoning behind the things that he did.
Right.
and what caused to protect
Wallachia from the Turks.
And you see what happens, the price that he paid.
Right, and I like I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but Tywin Lannister plays the vampire in the cave that he goes to.
Yeah,
he was really good in that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I enjoyed that film, and I've actually seen that probably 2 or 3 times.
Okay, well, we've talked about.
Can I throw one in?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to throw it. So, 2014. The film What We Do in the Shadows, starring Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement. This is a New Zealand production from the same folks that brought you the Flight of the Conchord series on HBO. And the original 2014 film is fantastic, and it's done documentary style, like The Office. And it's a comedy. This is a comedy, right? So camera crews are invited into this flat where these vampires are all roommates. And the film's great, but the series, which you can watch on Hulu, it's an FX series that has gone 5 seasons now, is probably my favorite vampire media. That series is freaking hilarious. It is brilliantly written, wildly entertaining, and plays all the myths at some point or another, and all the rice counting and all. It's really great. It's called What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. Speaking of shadows, how about Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp?
No.
I'm kidding. Kidding.
I would also recommend the 2021 Irish film Boys from County Hell.
The one that you talked about?
Yeah. That would be a really good.
So I
would also recommend the 2012 movie series Hotel Transylvania.
If you have a kid, yeah.
It's really good.
It's cute.
I don't say blah, blah, blah. I like it.
Yeah, it is a cute movie. So, and of course, we could go on and on all night about medical conditions and people who really think they're vampires.
Oh, Lord.
And in the news and goss, and I mean people who live in New Orleans and really think they're vampires.
Did you know there's a vampire cafe in New Orleans, and they serve some sort of drink in blood bags?
Oh, there's what is it, the Atlanta Vampire Alliance or something like that?
I do want to say though about vampirism, the clinical part of it, right? Just going to touch on it. Mm-hmm. It's not real.
Well, yeah.
It's not in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that is used in psychiatry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. Now, what's interesting is that you will find when you Google it, vampirism is termed Renfield's syndrome.
Interesting. But
here's
Renfield
the thing.
had pica.
Renfield was Dracula's.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Sorry, you go.
Sorry.
It was by Richard Knoll, which was an American psychologist in 1980s. He did it as a parody to replace the term of clinical vampirism, and it stuck. He got it named after Dracula's human zoophagous follower in Bram Stoker's novel. Okay? His name was Renfield.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he named it from, in a joke. As a joke. To show that it's obsession with drinking blood. And then that's when this is how people are saying that media can influence medicine in a way that it's not intended, that we're making fun of, so to say.
Yeah.
And now it is literally, what's what I'm looking for? Where it's the same.
Synonymous.
Synonymous, thank you. It just replaced the term with clinical vampirism, which, like I said, not a real thing, and typically is subsumed under more conventional psychiatric diagnostic categories, such as schizophrenia and paraphilia.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Paraphilia because of the drinking of the blood.
Not pedophilia.
No.
Paraphilia.
Any kind of philia.
If you get close, I can feel you.
Thank you for saying Renfield, though, because that reminded me of actually the fantastic horror comedy from 2023 called Renfield, starring Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
As
yes.
Dracula.
Yeah, it's
we watched it. We watched that on
really
our trip.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that, and that like there had been a case in 2012 in Turkey of vampirism, but the patient was it was a behavior, and the patient was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, which is basically where you dissociate from yourself and think you're somebody else or someplace else, and also PTSD. So there is not such a thing as vampirism. Clinically, people, this is not a thing.
I thought there was.
I mean, you can be anemic and think that you need blood, and there are people that truly believe they are. I'm not saying that, but
is that similar to pica though, where you eat dirt because you have a mineral deficiency,
right? Or fish rocks, or tires, or I mean, pica can go. I mean, laundry detergent. I mean, it can go everything.
You shouldn't be eating.
But so I just wanted to say clinically though that clinical vampirism is not a real thing in terms of psychiatry. It is usually subsumed under you have something else wrong with you.
Well, what about all these goths that say that they're vampires?
Listen,
think that
I have other psychiatric
identify as
I can identify as a
you can identify
mouse.
as whatever you want. I'm just saying in the DSM
doesn't mean I can move the arrow around on the computer.
In the diagnostic and statistical manual, there is no such thing, and now we have a joke of a name called Renfield's syndrome.
Right.
So there we are. There's my clinicalness.
Okay. And
I hear a black cat.
It is a black cat. But guess what his name is? Mezcal.
Sure is.
So that's our take on vampires and what we think about vampires. And
it's bullshit. That's I don't believe it.
But I will say,
people believe there's
a striking similarity between many different cultures of the folklore, which would lead you to think that ancient astronaut theorists are correct, that they are aliens.
Yeah.
And that is a reference to Ancient Aliens, the show, which I love. So there you are. That's what that's from.
I'm sure if you go back that up with many ancient alien theorists believe.
You know, I wonder if you went back and looked at
theorists.
Sumerian history, if you could find some mention of a vampire in their pantheon of gods that they worship.
You mean like
vampire?
Pazuzu?
Yes. Oh.
That would be the alternate version of the legend of Lilith and Lilitu.
Well, that's true.
There's the demons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that somewhere way, way back, 10, 12,000 years ago, something weird happened.
That someone couldn't explain.
Somebody couldn't explain.
They blamed it on...
And they created this whole myth that spread as people spread out from, and it could even go back to the Rift Valley in Kenya and Africa. We could be talking 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, and it just spread with humans as they migrated out of Africa into the Levant and into Europe and into Slavic areas.
Why was it so important to carry that on, though? Usually things like that carry on throughout and spread. You know, we all know that fire burns and it's bad and it hurts, right? And that spreads like that.
Genetic memory.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people think. I mean, like tales of big, tall, hairy hominids is a genetic memory of when we lived alongside Gigantopithecus, right?
Except people see it all the time.
Well, that's true. Well, yeah. Good point.
So,
but
people actually still see that.
But but these stories go back to like Egyptians, Greeks. So Sumerians as well. So I don't. Once again,
it's the same genetic memory that knows to be afraid of the dark.
Because there's vampires out there
in the woods.
Well, I mean, now we have night vision and all that, so you don't have to be nervous. Or that knows to be afraid of things with sharp teeth.
They are.
Right, exactly.
They will drain you of your blood and rip your insides out.
Or they used to eat us, right?
Okay. I think we should go mix another round of Vampiritas and call it a night. And say good night to all of our friends out there. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. All Hallows Eve.
We forgot to tell everybody, go to all of our places, and I'll put a link in the YouTube video so that you can go there. I have a link tree thingy that you can click on, and it doesn't take you to OnlyFans. It takes you to all the places that you can go find us. Paranormal-spirits.com, paranormal_- DASH _spirits for Instagram, Twitter, and X, TikTok, all that good stuff. And our YouTube channel is 3B Paranormal Spirits. If you found us on YouTube, you already know that.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Hit the like button.
Please subscribe. Please subscribe.
Promise never to wear the racerbacks again.
Yeah. If you subscribe, John and I will never be in racerbacks again. And I'll make sure that I throw up a picture of those racerbacks.
There's
in
throw
this
up,
video.
that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'll
throw that up in the video somewhere. Y'all have a good night. Happy Halloween. Good night.
I shall fly.
Bat! Oh, I forgot to mention I'm wearing my Dracula.
Dracula watch?
Yeah, you gotta just go watch that series. It's on Hulu.
I saw
5 seasons of it.
for
My
it.
God.
I saw a trailer for it.
Oh, it was on